Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Daryl, and my channel is dedicated to all things electric vehicles, and most of it in reference to my 2023 Chevrolet Bolt 1LT or rideshare information. I do part-time Uber driving, so it's a combo deal. It's either something about the car or something about Uber. I try to keep all the information in reference to those specifications. So the channel is it's a very narrow, I don't just go out and make videos all day about everything. Everything is concentrated about the electric car. In the future, I may do some driving videos just to show you some of the locations I go, and I do the rideshare information and such. So we'll see, but it's generally everything is related to the car and or Uber. So what today's video is about is we just reached 15,000 miles on the Bolt, and I wanted to go over some good things, some bad things, and just the overall feeling of how things are going. I'll show you our instrument cluster here in a few minutes, and we'll go over some good things and some bad things in the car. But I wanted to speak to you first to kind of go over, do a brief synopsis of everything, and then we'll show it in the vehicle itself. So, let's start with the good things. I've brought this up in several videos. Apple CarPlay, it's wireless in the Bolt, and it is, I really like Apple CarPlay. For me, it's as an Uber driver, the rideshare portion of it works flawlessly. That's why it's probably the best vehicle for ride sharing. It's not the roomiest, it's not the fastest, it's not any of these things, like a Tesla. But when it comes to the best overall vehicle for a small, running around like Central Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, Bloomington, Illinois, that area, it just works out. Apple CarPlay really helps step it up a couple notches. So with that, I wanted to talk about also the info center, infotainment center that it has, the 10.2-inch screen. It's really nice. It's got tons of information, more than most people would ever like. Now, I'm a statistic guy, and it goes through your battery usage. It goes through your climate, like how much your air conditioning is taking. It does, and we'll get to that. I'll show it to you. I really, really like that. Another thing that's really, my wife even likes it, and when we're driving at night, it has auto headlamps, which, most all new cars have now, but it has automatic dim built in. So I can turn it on and it'll hit the brights when there's no cars around. And then when a car is coming, it'll automatically dim. And for a cheap car to have that built in, that's a pretty positive thing. We really like it. The storage space in the back, very nice. It's got 2 levels of the trunk. You can move a piece up and down if you want to have stuff hidden underneath of it. It's got definitely. I take people from the airport all the time. It'll hold 2 big bags of luggage back there. So, or one oversized. Let's just put it that way. Most airlines like to have a 40-pound bag, and it'll handle a couple of those. If you want to carry the 60, 70-pound bag of luggage around, it would probably hold just one leaning down in the trunk area. And since this is a 15,000-mile review, I just want to also let you know we've had 0 incidents, no issues. The car is flawless. It's been just no issues whatsoever. And back to the information center, I was talking about the 10.2 center screen, but on the steering wheel, It also has information. It talks about, I mean, tire pressure in each tire. It's got a timer if you want to have a timer going. There's a lot on the steering, on the cluster behind the steering wheel, the main cluster of the car. There's a lot of information on that too that we keep track of. So what I've noticed so far in 15,000 miles is we don't have any degradation. I would not expect any yet anyway. I rarely, maybe on just one or two occasions, did DC fast charging, which if you know this about electric cars, DC fast charging is how a car, it's getting a lot of juice put into it at a short amount of time. Mainly you have to have that for road tripping, and that is the toughest on the batteries. I have a level 2 charger in my garage. I charge up a few times a week. Obviously driving 3,000 miles a month. I mean, I've owned the car March 11th, I think. I took possession of it. And today is August 7th. So we passed 15,000 miles, just coming up on 5 months of ownership. So I'm still averaging 3,000 miles per month driving. That's a lot of driving. So I use my level 2 charger in the garage. Works like a charm. I can charge it to 80%, 90%, 100%, whatever I want to charge it to. If I'm going to be having a big day the next day, I charge it to 100%. And then I've been averaging this summer about 300 miles a charge. So if I want to drive a long distance, I can go to 100%. And my battery setup is pretty good. According to General Motors, it can handle the 100%. Some batteries don't like to be charged to 100%. But this one, it's listed that it has no issues with that. So I wanted to kind of add into that. I read a couple articles recently. They were just, I don't want to call them out and out lies, but I'm not sure where they got their information from. One article in a big magazine that I was reading, my Google reports, stated about the massive expense of charging costs in electric vehicles. And it went so far as to say in the article that even charging your car at home is way more expensive than buying gasoline for your car, an equivalent car. Well, that's completely false. That is so false. I don't even know where to go with that. You know, I've mentioned this before. I pay 12 cents a kilowatt in my car. You know what? Let's just get right to the point. If we did this 15,000 miles, okay? And I'll show you this when we get to the car. I've averaged 4.5 miles per kilowatt. The whole 15,000 miles. I've got since the origination date, which I think the car had 1 mile or whatever on it when I got it. I've used 3,333.33 kilowatts. Okay? So let's take that times 12 cents a kilowatt, and that's about $400. Okay? $400. If I had no free charging, and as you know in some of my videos, I've done a lot of updates. I've been to East Peoria, Illinois, and I've charged on their level 2 chargers. They have them free at Target, over by McDonald's. There's probably a half dozen of them in East Peoria, where if I'm going to be there for an hour and grab 25, 30 miles of free charge, I do. If I'm at the Fond du Lac Library in East Peoria, they've got 2 chargers there. If I'm in that area, it's right by Costco. I jump on the charger. If I'm there an hour, there's 25, 30 miles worth of free, to me, charging. So the city of East Peoria is picking that up, and it's really appreciated. But I've probably, between that, and I have an EVgo card that I was given at the time of my purchase that has $500 worth of credit on it. And when my wife and I went to Chicago, we went for pizza one time. I used an EVgo station and used $10 off that card or something like that. We were in Indianapolis, and I used it a couple of times at a mall. You know, $1.50 here, $1.50 there, but it's free to me because I got it when I purchased my car. They gave me the card. So all in all, I would guess, purely speculation, purely, I've probably gotten 1,000 miles of free charging, maybe 1,500. When I've taken it to I've purchased my car in Central Illinois and Morton, Illinois, at Bob Grimm Chevrolet, a great dealership to deal with. And when I took it back for a tire rotation and a maintenance check, that's all they did was check the fluids. You know, windshield washer fluid was fine, and rotated the tires. While I was there, you know, they throw it on a charger for a half hour. I've been in to talk to the salesman who sold me the car about some other things, nothing bad. And while I'm there, they'll throw it on a charger and get a free extra 25 miles if I'm there for an hour on a level 2 charger. So it's been great. No issues whatsoever with that. But back to this article two articles I read. I guess people can just write what they want. It doesn't have to be factual. They can just make up stuff and put it in a paper, I guess. I don't know. So, in reference to that same respect, I used to own a Toyota Prius, which was the most economical vehicle in the United States. I drove it for 13 years, the best car I ever owned, hands down. I got 50 miles per gallon when it was new, and I was getting 50 when I got rid of it. Okay? So let me just tell you this. This is the most efficient vehicle in the United States, the Prius, the gas cars. If I would have drove that 15,000 miles, you divide that by 50 miles per gallon, that's 300 gallons of fuel. And right now, I just checked at Costco. I think it was $3.66 a gallon last night. Okay? That takes it right to $1,100. Okay? I hope you can see it without a reflection. So, I haven't spent $400 charging in 5 months. But let's just go way out on a limb and willy-nilly and say I did. Okay, there's $400 to drive 15,000 miles. Or, driving the most economical gas vehicle in the country, I would have spent $1,100. I mean, I don't know if people that write these articles don't think that people use common sense. I don't know if they think, well, obviously people just believe them. Well, let's just throw stuff out there, and whatever sticks to the wall sticks. You know, maybe people will believe us, even though we write strange things, very strange things. So, those are the kind of things that really aggravate a guy. You know, you go through there and you read something like that that's just completely wrong. You know, and unfortunately, there's millions of people that read these articles that say, well, I told you, Gladys, looky there. You know, it's cheaper to drive our, F-150 pickup truck than to drive an electric car. So, anyway, I guess you hear what you want to hear. You write what you want to write. So, I'm sorry. My rant is winding down. So, another good thing that I found out about the car, and you'll see it in my videos, the regen braking. I don't ever touch the brakes in my car. That's why after 15,000 miles, they're probably the brake pads are at 99.9% still. Because my wife, when she uses the car, she turns off one pedal driving. And for those of you that aren't aware of one pedal driving, there's a little green button. Put it on. You just turn it on, turn it off in the car, right down by the center console. And if you turn that off, it drives like a normal car. It rolls. You have to hit the brakes to slow down. My wife enjoys driving the car that way. Okay? I, on the other hand, I turn on one pedal driving, and when you let off the accelerator, it is as though you're touching the brakes. It comes down to a stop. It'll come to a complete stop. I've also got a paddle on the back of the left side of the steering wheel. If I'd like to stop even faster, if I'm coming off an exit ramp and I'm coming down there hot from, say, a 70 mile an hour interstate speed, and I can let off, if I'm not going to be able to get stopped at the bottom, I'm already regenerating and the car is slowing down, I can grab this paddle, pull it for more regen. And every bit of that regeneration is putting juice back into the battery, which is kind of in a skateboard system under the car. So it's a 65 kilowatt battery. It's not like you're going to get 100 miles back as you're coming off the interstate, but you're not using the brakes at all. And any bit of energy, sometimes it's a mile that I've added back in coming down off an exit ramp, which then helps to what your miles per kilowatt average is too, because whatever you can add back into it. That's why stop and go traffic in town is the best. It's the bomb. Stop and go, stop and go, stop and go is regenerative braking everywhere you go. And I average in town, when I'm just doing in-town driving, I'm always over 5 miles per kilowatt, always. It's when I jump on the interstate and I'm running 70, 75, that the miles per kilowatt starts dropping, because that's where you use the most energy, is highway driving. I do fairly well on state routes. If you're running 55 or 60, I average 4.6 a lot, 4.7. So it's just the interstate driving that draws it down. And I do a fair amount of interstate driving if I'm Uber driving, So quickly, let me go over those are the good things about the car. There are a couple, 3 bad things, and when I say bad, they're not horrible. Okay, here it is. It's for me. I'm one of the few. My grandson told me today, I'm one of the few people that don't like to listen to the radio when I'm in the car. Okay, the radio comes on every time you start your car. The radio comes on. You can't shut it off. You'd have to shut off the whole 10.2 center screen, all the information center, to not have that on. I mean, it's not hard. You push the mute button and it mutes the radio. It don't turn it off. It just mutes the radio. So every single time I start the car, radio comes on, and I have to, now granted, I'm not lazy, but I have to push the mute button to mute that. I shouldn't have to do that. I've been through the settings. I can't find any place to turn that off. I've been to the car dealership. I've talked to the salesman. He has a Chevy Bolt. He says it. There's no way to shut that off. It's not happening. So, and for me, it's an aggravation. For my granddaughter, my grandson, they love the music. For my wife, there's music all the time when I get in their cars. So, and as he told me today, most people like to have the radio playing, Grandpa. Sorry. Also, I did this on another video. The charging spots, there's a lightning cord, and then there's a USB cord, and then there's a 12-volt cigarette lighter cord that are in the center console. Like down, you got to reach your arm in to the abyss to try to find where they're at. They're in a terrible location. I mean, not to rant, but come on, GM, you could have done a little bit better than that. So, and the general thing, I had to look down here. The charging speed for road tripping, it is the slowest fast charging vehicle out there. 55 kilowatts is the maximum it will charge, and that's only up to about 55%. And to get that, you have to be, your battery has to be at the right temperature. All things have to be just perfect. And then you'll get up to 55. I've seen 52 kilowatts, I think, one time when I was only on a fast charger twice. I think I saw 52 kilowatts one time for a little while. Now, having said that, the 2 times that I charged on the fast charger, those are level 3 chargers, okay? There are 3, that's the 3 levels. For those that don't know, there's a level 1 charger, which is your plug that you have all over your house and in your garage, just your regular 110, okay? Then there's a 220, which is fast. That's all you need. I can charge up from 0 to 100% in about 7 hours overnight. If I rolled into the garage, and I have a level 2 charger I had put in my garage. If I rolled in at 0% and I plugged it in, within 7 hours, I'm raring to go. I'd be at 100% by the next morning, raring to go. So that's more than enough. I usually don't like to get it down below 20%. Every article I've read says, hey, if you keep it between 20 and 80%, your battery, it'll be phenomenal. Okay. So, I mean, I've gotten it down low before, but normally I try 20, 25% is as low as I let it get, and then I charge it up. So, but General Motors estimated you will get about 100 miles of charge in 30 minutes with the Bolt. Okay. Now, that's slow when you're talking like Tesla speeds. That's slow when you're talking about the Porsche Taycan. You know, some of these really expensive cars, you know, can charge really fast. But even at that, you know, the second time that I was at a DC fast charger, like I said, I've only been there twice. I checked it at 30 minutes and I had gained 100 miles of charge. I was down low. I was down about 20%. And I had gained 100 miles. I think I had 71 miles left of range when I plugged it in. And at exactly 30 minutes, I had 172 miles of battery. It had gained 101 miles in a half hour. Then I thought, well, I know they slow down. There's a charging curve. Everybody knows about it. You know, as batteries get higher, they don't charge at that massive speed all the way to 100%. You know, once most of them reach 60%, they start dropping off 70%, 80%. So most people who road trip never have their cars at 100%. By the time you get to 80%, the batteries all of them are starting to really drop off on their charging speeds, because you don't want that much charge going into your battery. That will mess up the thermal system. So with that, I let it go another 30 minutes, and I gained, I think it was right at another 100 miles, just under 100, the second hour, which I was not expecting. You know, when people talk about road tripping a Chevy Bolt, they're like, hey, drive it down to 10%, or, you know, like, or Out of Spec Motoring does, drive it down to 1%, pull in, you know, I'm too cautious for that. But roll in at 10% and get out of there by 80% at the latest. You know, you don't need that. So in theory, if you rolled in with a Chevy Bolt, and I've watched a couple of videos of people who have done that, road tripped out of Texas and around, and same thing. We stayed about 45 minutes, you know, and by the time you know, go to Electrify America, you go into Walmart and you use a restroom, you grab some snacks, you come back, you know, you've wasted a half hour easily. So 45 minutes, yes, it takes longer than a gas car, but you easily tacked on, say in 45 minutes, you've gotten an extra 125 miles, 135 miles, maybe 140 miles. So at that rate, maybe you got close to 150. Well, you can go down the road another couple hours. Now, that's still, you know, this car is not built for road tripping. Can be done. My wife and I are thinking about, at the end of this month, going to Florida and taking it. We got a 10-day to go to our condo in Florida. So we're considering taking it. It's not like a 2.5-hour plane trip, but still, it would be a first massive road trip for us. It's 1,250 miles down to South Florida. You know, that's a big trip for a Chevy Bolt. But we would just probably try to get a hotel halfway, hopefully one that had a destination charger or a J1772, and then you know, we'd be fully charged by morning and head out the second day. So if we break it down to 625 miles a day, not a big deal. I think we can do it without a problem. So, and the only other thing I just wrote down on my notes, the only other thing I could think of that's a bad thing is there's no frunk. You know, like a Tesla, when you pop the front trunk, since there's no engine, it should be like a big hole there. Throw a suitcase up front, like a Tesla. No. Chevy's got more orange cords running around, high power cords in there. It looks like it's a motor stuffed in there, and there's no motor. So there's inverters, converters. I'll show you. We'll get to that. So with that, I'm done with my rambling. So let me turn on the second half of this. We're going to go through everything that I spoke about. We're going to go through on the car. Okay? Stand by. Okay, welcome back. So here we are. Here's the center 10.2 inch screen. And if you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice that my radio keeps talking about the channel it's on and such. Once again, I had to mute the radio because I don't like the radio playing when I get in the car. So here's Apple CarPlay. We can fire it up. And, you know, as I've told you before, nickname is Thor. My grandson named that right at the, we needed that for the My Chevrolet app. And for those of you that haven't used it before, I really like it. Tells you how many miles we got left on the charge. Tells you what percentage of battery life there is left. Oh, it's just phenomenal. It works like a charm. We really, really like it. We can go through here. It's got my Uber app. It's got all the different apps that are on here. You know, we really, really enjoy it. So with that, let me get into what we were talking about earlier. Here's the energy screen. Over 15,000 miles, I have averaged, look in the upper right-hand corner, 4.5 miles per kilowatt. Okay? It's amazing. Now, this screen right here on the left that says 55.8, and I'm sorry if it's shaky, that is how many kilowatts I've used. When the car is fully charged, it resets to 0. And then that adds up over whatever, and that is the current trip. So far, I've averaged 4.6 miles per kilowatt the last 255 miles. But as soon as if I set my charging to 80% or 90%, as soon as my charging shuts off, that's where it'll stop. Okay? So that'll reset to 0. And so will the driving accessories, and so will the climate and the battery conditioning. But in the upper right-hand corner, that 4.5 will not. Okay? That will continue the lifetime of the car to find out how much we've averaged over the whole lifetime. Okay? But also on this, sorry. We can go to the flow and see that there it is. There's our 80%. That's what 80% looks like in the car on the battery. We can go up here to the impact button. Tell me that my driving technique is not too shabby. You know, I've added 49.2 miles because of the way I drive. I've lost 9 because I seem to be going up mountains all the time. And with the air conditioning on, it's usually, this last couple months, it's been brutally hot. I've lost 12 miles by the climate. But because it's warm outside, I've gained 4.6 miles because the warm temperatures, batteries love warm temperatures. So that's a really nice setup. I like the way it just gives me all the information I want to give. On the charging screen that's next to where it says energy, which is what we have highlighted, when you go here, we can change everything from our home plugged in, our time, our charging options. I can set the charging, which I always have it set to be ready to go at 5:30 a.m. because, as many of you know, I'm an Uber driver and I like to work early mornings and take people to work or home from work. So I can plug the car in and it will not start charging until it's going to make the car have 100% or whatever I have it set to. At 5:30 a.m. it will complete its charge. Yeah, that's just phenomenal. So let me scroll over to the center screen, if I can get this in here to help you out. There's the 15,014 miles we've driven. And over the last 29 miles, I've been drag racing, it looks like. Something, I don't know why, but I've had a lot of higher speeds in. I've only gotten 4.2 miles per kilowatt the last 29 miles. Okay? But with that, we've been averaging 30.1 miles per hour. There's the tire pressure in our tires. In the mornings, now the recommended tire pressure in a Bolt is 38 pounds. Okay, so throughout the day, mine will go up. So this morning when I started, they were all at 36, I think. So once you drive, the more you drive, they build up heat, they build up temperature, and they'll be at 38 or 39 throughout the day. There's also a timer. I don't use a timer, but maybe when we head to Florida, we'll start that and see how many months it takes us to get there. I don't know. Just a story. And then there's driver assistance, which the basic 1LT, it notifies me of cars that are close, but it doesn't have automatic braking. Okay? So the center console has been, it's great. So the auto headlamps, which you can't see because currently it's daytime, but if I have the lights on like that, look in the upper left-hand corner, right where it's 4:44 p.m. Right below that, it looks like a headlight, and then there's an A in the dome. That is the automatic, and so it will automatically dim and automatically bright with, you don't have to touch anything at night after dark. It's great. Very, very impressed with it. I love the way it works. So that is, and I usually turn them off. I don't like the automatic lights on during the day. Again, that's something that comes on with a General Motors car. They think you need to have driving lights on, 28 hours a day. Again, I would turn them on when I need them, but so let me scroll down. Well, as you can see, before I do that, look right next to the P on the lower right-hand side, because we're in park. It looks like a foot with a circle around it. Okay, that's the one pedal driving. So I'm going to go to the center console slowly, and on the center console, you see the green right there. There's at the bottom, right underneath D for drive. Okay, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and one pedal driving. Wife gets in the car, she turns it off. I get in the car, I turn it back on, and that's it. That's how we roll, okay? So those are all the good. The bad, as I get way down here in the center console, way in the back, and you can't see it, but there's a lightning cord, a USB cord, and a 12-volt cord that with my big fat hands, I have trouble getting in there. So that's one of the bad things, besides the radio that's always on. And we talked about it, the charging speeds, the lightning cords are basically it. These here, and I leave one plugged in so that I can, because I can't get my fat hands down there anyway to start with. So that's where we're at. That's basically everything. I'll show you the outside of the car here in a minute, and we'll show you, I have one little ding on the front bumper that I've gotten, and that's the only mark that's on the car that I can find. So that's not bad after 5 months. So let's get outside and take a look. Okay, guys, here is my 2023 Chevrolet Bolt 1LT, also known as Thor. Let me show you the trunk real quick. We got that popped open just to give you an idea how much space there is in there. Now, currently, I have this up to the top, but normally this is also adjustable. I'm not sure how much space you can see. There we got an umbrella and some other stuff underneath, but this would fit down below, which adds up tons of space. Tons of space added on. Okay, let's move to the front. Okay, so here's the hood, under the hood, which, as you can see, General Motors somehow filled it up. And as you can see, all of the orange power lines, so to speak. You don't want to get around anything that's orange. Over here by this red mark on the right, your 12 volt, that's it. I did want to show you one issue down by my headlight. That is actually a rock chip that flew up. Now, thankfully, it did not hit my headlight. So, and underneath the silver is a black primer, it appears. Black primer. So, again, you know, I wish I was a frunk. No luck. So, with that, I think that's about all we've got. So everybody have a nice day. Be safe. And have a blessed week. Thank you.